Hello, my name is Julie Fry, and I'm the curator at Stan Hywet Hall & Gardens. 2023 marks the 125th anniversary of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. In recognition of this tremendous achievement, we are issuing a 10-part video series beginning in March with one running each month throughout the rest of the year. Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company was founded by F.A. and his brother C.W. Seiberling. F.A. and his wife Gertrude were also responsible for the conception and creation of Stan Hywet Hall & Gardens, their family home for 40 years. This episode, we're going to talk about the financial panic of 1903 and how Goodyear almost closed its doors after only being open 5 years. I think a lot of people are familiar with the reorganization that happened in 1921, which resulted in both F.A. and his brother C.W. stepping down from the company at that time and leaving, what they founded in 1898. But one that's lesser talked about was the financial panic and resulting reorganization of Goodyear in 1903 and 1904. At that time, it was not uncommon to kind of have these moments in the economy where one thing would fall apart and it would create a domino effect and affect a lot of other industries. And this is what happened in 1903. There was a financial panic, and it really didn't affect Goodyear until their primary financial backer, who was F.A.'s brother-in-law, Raymond Penfield, went bankrupt. So similar, again, he's having this kind of deja vu moment of his father losing his company in 1893 during that economic crisis, and here 10 years later, his brother-in-law is wiped out by the financial crisis of 1903. And Raymond Penfield had been a member of the board of directors of Goodyear pretty much since the company was founded in 1898, and a primary financial backer for the past 5 years. He often wrote personal checks to pay for payroll, if there were kind of lean moments, or help lend his name to back any credit that F.A. needed extended. So he was an integral part of making Goodyear a success, an integral part to the kind of financial foundation of the company. And suddenly when he went bankrupt and all of the creditors are clamoring for the debts that he owes them, it really kind of knocks Goodyear's feet out from under them, and they don't have that stability behind them anymore. At the same time, similar to what happened in 1921, F.A. was always a risk taker. He was a risk taker for the fact that he bought a factory with no business plan. He was a risk taker when he decided to violate those patents and actively go over business that he knew would get him into litigation and potentially financial trouble. So he had been taking risks since the factory was first started. Goodyear was financially overextended in a lot of ways. There were some bad debts that needed to be written off, but at the same time, they had made $1.5 million in revenue that last year. So they were very successful. They were making great strides, and a lot of those patent success stories, which you'll hear about in later episodes, are just around the corner for them. So they're about to really take off as a company, but in this moment, it is all crisis in 1903. So F.A. has to figure out, how is he going to meet payroll? How is he going to be able to keep the company rolling? And here's the quote he actually wrote to his brother Charlie, June 16th, 1904. "Tell Palmer not to pay any bills that he can postpone for 20 or 30 days and accumulate all the cash that he can. Do not order any more stock ahead than is needed to run until, say, the 5th or 10th of July. Keep me well informed as to new deposits or anything that may arise with reference to our reorganization." So he actually reached out to several banks, tried to get loans, again without that backing of Penfield. F.A. himself was still a little bit of an unknown. The company was still a little too new. He wasn't really able to stand on his own 2 feet and get that refinancing. So he actually investigated the idea of selling the company. He approached the Rubber Goods Manufacturing Company, which owned 13 small rubber companies at the time, to see if they wanted to buy Goodyear and kind of absorb Goodyear into their conglomerate. He went and had the discussion, did the negotiation for the sale, came back, and the price was so good that it actually made him reflect and say, well, if they're willing to pay this much for our factory, it must really be a gem, so we should keep it and try to make it work. So it was really the fact that they gave him such a good deal that helped him make the decision not to sell the company. So Goodyear ended up working with the Cleveland Trust Company in Cleveland to do the reorganization. Penfield had a lot of debt with that company, so they kind of incorporated some of that Penfield debt with the Goodyear reorganization to kind of come out in a more profitable end for everybody. So they did create a plan that issued new shares, retired some of those bad debts, and gave Goodyear access to cash that they needed to kind of keep operating. So the plan was approved on June 30th, 1904 and put into effect. The company that year had almost no profit. They were pretty much wiped out by the end of 1904 and had to start over again in 1905. But as I said, you'll learn in future episodes how some of those patents and innovations were in the works while this was all going on, and a lot of those products that they were working on were just about to be released to the public and really make some significant changes in Goodyear's fortune. So thank you so much for joining me for this month's installment about Goodyear history. I look forward to sharing more with you soon next month.